Hello everybody. I'm Poho, guys, welcome. I'm the owner and artist of the Purple Posie. I'm a content creator for Dixie Belle, and I'm a business coach and a mentor in my private membership group. So that's all about me. I'm down in Texas. What I'm here to do today is I've got this kind of a mid-century modern type of a chest of drawers that I'm gonna paint today. But typically on mid-century modern, I like to see real smooth, classy finishes, but I'm gonna go boho. I'm gonna go boho today, and we're gonna do some boho blending and ombre, and we're gonna do some fun stuff. First of all, I wanna go over the colors that I'm working with today. I'm gonna work with some yellows, some reds, and some blues, and a little bit of black. And we're gonna go like yellow into red, which will make an orange, and then we'll have the red, and then we'll go into blue, which will make a purple, and then we'll have the blue, and we're gonna finish off, I think, with the caviar at the bottom, just to give it some heavy, hey Dixie Belle, give it some weight kind of at the bottom. So that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start with, one of the colors I'm working with today is Kernel Mustard. It's a very bright, deep yellow. I'm gonna be working with Rusty Nail. I love this color so much, and I think it's because it's the color of my bedroom, but Rusty Nail. I pulled out Bunker Hill Blue. Depending on how my ombre goes, I may leave the Bunker Hill Blue out, but I also pulled in the navy. I may leave one of these out, so we're just gonna wing it. So Bunker Hill Blue in the navy, and then I do have Caviar out as well. It's the richest, deepest, darkest black that Dixie Belle has. This dresser came to me in this beautiful pink color, and I believe it's painted with latex paint. I sanded all the little parts that looked like it was coming up, and I didn't feel the need to completely strip it. So we're just gonna go right over it with the Dixie Belle paint, which I've done before, and I've never had any trouble. So the brushes that I'm using today are going to be the flat minis. If you watch me paint a lot, this is my go-to brush. All right, so we're going to go in with Kernel Mustard. And we're going to start to do a little ombre. Thank you, Malia. All right, cool. We're going to do a little ombre. This is a fresh jar of paint. Try not to spill it. I'm going to work out of the lid. First, I'm going to bring you guys in so you can see what I'm doing. And let me brighten this up so you can see the piece a little bit better. All right, here we go. Now I didn't do anything to this piece other than clean it with White Lightning. Like I said, I did sand the little chunks of latex paint that looked like they were peeling off. I sanded that with the sanding sponge that Dixie Belle offers on their website. It's like a 220 grit little sanding sponge. So clean with White Lightning, rinsed really well with vinegar water, and took a little sanding sponge, and that's it. That's how we got where we are. Okay, so the coverage over this bright pink is actually really, really good. So I was gonna go ahead and paint the ombre before I came live, and then just go over it, just so I don't have to bore you guys with two coats. But a lot of times what I like to do is, if I'm doing an ombre, if I'm working with colors that are super crazy in contrast, even if the base coat has a perfect coverage, and it's gonna be just fine, but this is a good way to check your color combinations and make sure you're kind of going in the direction that you had envisioned in your mind. I do work with a lot of crazy different contrasting colors that you would never think to put together. So if you're gonna try a boho style, this would be a good way. This is a good way to kind of check yourself before you go in. And you can do a super light, thin layer so you're not wasting your paint, especially if you're not sure you're gonna like it or not. But I've kind of used these colors before, so I know they're real pretty together. So I'm feeling okay. When you're blending, you need to have a water bottle nearby. This is a continuous fine mist water bottle. Dixie Belle has these on their website. I think they come in red and black, in case you care. I love these because you can pump it and pump it and pump it, and it just keeps going even after you're done. So when you're blending, you want to make sure that you're keeping your paint wet the entire time, because you cannot blend dry paint. You just can't. So make sure you're keeping your paint wet. Now, I wasn't too concerned about it up here because this is gonna be straight kernel mustard. But as I come down to where I'm going to be doing the blending, I am concerned about keeping it wet. So I'm just misting it. You can mist your brush or the piece, either one. And I'm gonna come down and kind of clean off my brush. I don't want a whole lot of yellow because I'm gonna start blending in some of that rusty nail here. Okay, so I'm kind of cleaning off my brush. Another thing that you'll learn if you follow me and watch me live and I do blending is I don't change out my brushes. I keep the same brushes unless I'm going from like black to white. I won't change my brush. So I'm gonna keep the same brush and I'm gonna go in with rusty nail. Now there's several different ways you can ombre. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. Some will paint the colors, like there'll be a harsh line there and then they'll come up and mix them and whatever. There's all different kinds of ways. You just do whatever is best for you. If you're interested in learning how to blend, play with it a little bit and find out what style works for you the best or which way works for you the best. All right, so I'm gonna do a little mist and I'm coming up into that kernel mustard. I'm gonna come down here and get the true rusty nail color. But I love this color combination because it looks almost sunset-ish, because it makes like an orange color. So you can go right in over the yellow if you want. You can come down here and work your way up. Either way works just fine. Like I said, the key is just wet paint. You cannot let your paint dry. So we're just gonna do that. Let me come over here now a little bit more. And you paint with a really light hand, really light strokes. I'm not pushing down onto the paintbrush too much. And if you can see, I don't know how well you can see, but I'm using an angle. My brush is, sorry about that. My brush is at an angle, so I'm not going in like this. I'm kind of swooping back and forth with the sides of my bristles. And that also helps with, if you struggle with brush strokes, that will help that. Let's come over here. So this time we'll start down here and then go up into it. And you can see it gives you the same effect. And we're gonna go up into the kernel mustard. Boho blending is my favorite because you know why? It's perfectly imperfect. Nobody's gonna know if you make a mistake. You can kind of play it out like, I meant to do that. Because it's boho. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so I've got the yellow and the rusty nail blended. So now I'm just gonna come in down here and I'm gonna get with the straight rusty nail. It's still got a little bit of the yellow on there, but that's okay. Also, one thing I was gonna mention, when you start to try to blend or do an ombre, start with just a little bit on your brush. I meant to show you how much I had on my brush. Don't overload your brush. It's easier to add to. Otherwise, you'll kind of be going back and forth between the yellow and the red until you get a good blend the way you like it. That texture, it's so weird. This dresser's got a lot of texture on it. And I can see it right there. I don't know how I like that, but maybe with the second coat, it'll look a little bit better. I'm gonna scoot you guys back a little bit as we work down here. Now, since it's got this little lip that pops out, I'm not gonna try to blend that. I could if I wanted to, but I don't have patience. Patience is not one of my finest attributes, but so what I'll do is I'll kind of use this portion as a segment or a segue into the deeper colors, because we're gonna go in with two different blues and blend those in with this rusty nail. So I'm painting this just straight rusty nail right now. I'm trying not to load up my brush too much because I know I'm about to blend and I'm not changing brushes, but I don't want such an overwhelming amount of rusty nail on there that it not hurts, but it makes blending a little bit more difficult. All right. But like I said, if you're starting out blending, ombreing, doing whatever, it does take a little bit of practice. So if you don't get it right away, don't be discouraged, because it does take some practice. All right, so now we're coming down into the portion where I'm gonna wanna start blending. So I'm gonna add a little bit more paint. And I'm working fast because, again, you gotta keep the paint wet, and I don't have to keep spraying the piece. So you guys can see what I'm doing yet. Okay. Just getting a good layer on here. This is fantastic. This is covering really, really well. I will just have to go over it with a real thin second coat. Trying to keep that wet. I don't want, right now I'm cleaning off my brush. Kind of cleaning off my brush. All right. Now, you know what? I'm gonna leave out the bunker blue. I'm gonna go straight in within the navy. It's a really deep navy blue color. It's real pretty. I'm gonna leave out that bunker. We'll just go straight in with navy. Okay, let me show you how much paint I put on my brush to start with. So I'll put about that much on my brush to start with to go in and start blending. Because like I said, you can always add to. It's just harder if you go in too thick with your colors. It's doable, it's just more difficult. So this is making, as I bring it up, it's gonna make like a purpley color, which I love. I love purple, obviously. And I might actually come down a little bit further with the red on my second coat. I think I might do that. If you have a harsh line, just go over it, or you can feather like that. And I don't care if it's straight across or not. I don't care if this is a little bit higher than up here. I don't care. That's the beauty of Boho. All right, so now we're gonna get a little bit deeper in color as we come down. These lips are tricky. This is where you might feather. And I think also my plan for this piece is I'll do the ombre, and then I'll probably come in and do some accent colors. So like I'll bring some of the blue up here with like my putty knife or something like that. Let me move this stuff down here. Just to bring some of the colors together. Let me bring it down. And need my water bottle. Okay, I can't see under here. If you get too much water, if you spray too much water, it'll drip. So just keep that in mind as well. Like I said, you can also spray your brush to keep it wet. I do think, yeah, now that I'm looking at it, I think I will come down a little bit further with the rusty nail and blend that in on the second coat. I think I will do that. Right now I'm just going in, this should be just a straight, kind of the straight in the navy. And we'll have a little section of just the navy before we go in with the caviar. Is anybody painting with me today? What projects are you working on if you're painting with me? Has anybody tried boho blending? Have you found that it's easier than you thought? Harder than you thought? What are your thoughts on it? All right, now we're getting down to the part where I'm gonna wanna blend. So I'm putting a little bit of extra paint on my brush. There's a lot of texture on this thing. So you have to be careful to keep, or be mindful of to keep your paint wet. As you're getting into the part you're gonna start blending into. When I have pieces like this that I'm blending on, it's not completely flat, I'll avoid, like right here, I'll avoid trying to ombre or blend on that section. This has got like a little dip for the knobs, so like I would try to avoid that. It just makes it a little bit easier. So if you'll just plan out, your piece and where you want your colors to go, it makes it a whole lot easier when you come in, if you don't have to blend in those areas with lips or dips or anything like that. It's, like I said, it's doable. It's just a little bit more difficult. All right, now I'm just gonna clean my brush off. Just gonna clean it off. And then we're gonna go in with the caviar. So it's looking very sunsetish, right? Before we go in with the caviar, it's looking very sunsetish. And on the camera, it looks like the lines are pretty harsh, but they're really not. They're really not. All right, let's make sure this is good and wet. Now the caviar, and you won't see much of a difference going in with the caviar into the navy since they're so dark. It'll just be a subtle difference. A real subtle change. So I'm gonna bring this up a little bit. So at this point in the game, I've still got enough blue on my brush to where when I go to the side, because I'm not doing this, when I go to the side, it's pulling a little bit of that blue from my brush and helping it blend. That is why I don't change brushes when I'm blending. It does help the blending process. But yeah, you can't, it's real subtle, you can't really tell unless you're up close. The blending. I didn't want to go all the way down with just one color. And I thought black would be a nice transition. Nice color to end with. I probably could have gotten the same effect using the bunker, coming in with the bunker after the rusty nail, and then going in with the navy. It would have given me the same effect. Keeping the paint wet. The pink's gonna poke through. All right, give it one good squirt and we'll go back across. It's a very, very, very subtle difference. You probably can't even see it. I can barely see it. All right. That's it for the base coat. Yeah? So now when I come in, like I said, I think I'm gonna bring this down a little bit further, and it's dry at the top. so we can go ahead and come back up and do our second coat. I'm gonna get a new brush, but until then, I'm just gonna wet it real good and wrap it up in a baby wipe until I can get it into some water. So our second coat, this should be the final work that we do. And I'm gonna have to throw some pink on here because it's throwing me a little bit. Or some yellow. Let me throw some yellow up here. It's throwing me a little bit. All right, we're gonna go in. Ooh, I got a lot. You don't need a thick coat on either of these coats. You really don't need a thick, and you shouldn't. Anyways, it makes the drying a little bit more longer and difficult, but you just need real thin coats. So we're gonna work our way back down and get that ombre real close to where we want it, or where we want it. And I can even show you while we're on here, if I make an uh-oh, and I need to come back in with the yellow, how to fix it. I can show you guys that as well. So we're getting into kind of the orangey part right now. So this is where I'm going to start blending in that rusty nail with the cream and mustard. So I'm just bringing it down a little bit because it's going to overlap right here. So you guys can kind of see again how I do this. You don't need a whole bunch of water, you just got to keep it wet. Oh, my ears are ringing. Somebody's talking about me. All right. Okay. Now the rusty nail. Just a little bit. Starting with this much. I'm going to come down and work my way up. You want to make sure your paint is dry, your base coat is dry before you come in for your second coat. Otherwise, it'll pull your paint and it'll kind of it'll muddle up a little bit and get like lumps, and it'll just look really, really funny. So you want to make sure your paint's completely dry before you come in with your second coat. You can use a heat gun or a blow dryer, or just let it sit while you go have a snack. Either way, it needs to be dry. Okay, so let's just pretend that I didn't like how this ombre here, and I want to bring the yellow down some more. Let's just pretend. How I would fix that is I'd get a fresh new brush, put this to the side, I'd get a fresh new brush, and I'd go in with the yellow. Gosh, I keep getting too much. I'd go in with the yellow, and I'd start up here before it starts to ombre, and I would just bring it down something like that. So we'll just say, I didn't want it to go that, or I wanted to go further. I'd come back in with a fresh new brush and pull it down. And just work it, and you can go back and forth between your red and your yellow. But if you're going back to a lighter color, you want to change your brush. Going from light to dark is no big deal as far as changing your brushes are concerned. But this time you'd want to definitely change your brush. Okay, so I'm just working it. Until it looks good. Because I do want the red to come down a little bit further down here. All right, that's how I would do it. Let's set this to the side and go back to my blending brush. All right, so I'm okay with this ombre. It looks really, really good. So we're gonna start here with the straight rusty nail. And it's kind of wet from me spraying. That way I don't have to try to blend on this lip. That's the trickery behind it. Just have to look at your piece and see where it's broken up and where you can get away with shortcuts. I've had a piece that I've had to do where I've had to blend or do an ombre on a lip like this, and it took me forever. It was all the way across a really long dresser. And I was going from turquoise, I think it was Dixie Belle blue, into, I don't know, like fluff or something. My gosh, it took me so long to get it just right. Oh, I got a lot there. I'm not opening my drawers because there is a good gap. Actually, I see that. There's a pretty good sized gap, especially down here. So I don't have to worry about the drawers sticking to each other. You guys see? But you want to be mindful of that when you're painting any piece, any kind of way. You want to be mindful of the drawer gaps. So we got our base coat on, we liked the placement of the colors. Now we're coming in with the second coat. And we're finalizing our ombre. Because we decided we wanted to bring the red down a little bit more. So this is where we're gonna start adding the blue, is on this transition between the drawers. So gotta work to cover up that navy with this rusty nail. I'm trying to go fast so I don't bore you guys with the same thing, but like I said earlier, it does take a little practice, so if you try it, don't get frustrated with yourself. Get just a piece of plywood or something smooth and flat. Pick some, I would start, if you're learning to blend, I would start with like a dark blue and a light blue. Just start with 2 colors and get comfortable with that. Then you can add maybe a 3rd color, and then you can start in with contrasting colors like this. Just practice. All right, let me put that down and then sit down here and we'll do the bottom. All right. Oh, I need that. Okay, we good? All right, so going in within the navy now. And this is where I want it to start, make that purpley color. I'm spraying my brush because the paint on the drawer is pretty wet. I don't want it to drip a whole lot. Okay, so I'm just gonna work this a little bit. So here, we'll just, you know, if you get in here and you're blending and you decide, oh, I need to bring some more red down, all I would do is I'd grab that brush I just used for the yellow to bring the yellow down. I'd put some of the rusty nail on there and do just like I did at the top. But I don't want to go back in my rusty nail with this blue paintbrush. Always go light to dark. It's drying up on me. And I think I am going to need to do that. Let me grab the rusty nail. So, coming back in with that other brush I had, and I'm adding a little bit more red here. And bringing it down just a little bit. Give me a nice purpley color. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my blue, the one I was using with the blue and black. And we'll start down here and work up. The hardware for this piece is so stinking cool. I should have taken it. They're sitting in a drawer. It's a very mid-century modern hardware. I love it. And I'll probably just clean them up and leave them as is. A little bit tarnished, a little bit worn, just to offset the modern boho look on here. Because I can. That's why, because I can. Okay, now we're coming down to where we're going to start blending that midnight sky. So I'm not adding a ton of the blue. I'm just making sure it's wet and blendable. And this is just, I don't think I mentioned it, it's just straight water in my water bottle. I always get that question, it's just straight water. If you have good water out of your tap, that's fine. I use RO water because our water is really hard here. Okay, time to go in with the caviar, and then I'm gonna let you guys go. And y'all are gonna go practice doing an ombre, right? This is such a subtle difference, I love it. And I'll bring you guys in close after I get this layer on. So you can see. My paint is drying really fast today for some reason. I'll have to come in and touch up under the drawers, the sides of the drawers where a little bit of that pink is popping through. But that's not a big deal. Almost done, guys. I gotta stand back. It's hard to tell up close. I'm concentrating. This keeps catching right there and showing some pink. I have to figure something out. Okay, I think I'm good with that. I think I like that. I'm good with that. Okay. Let me bring you guys in. Let me bring you guys in so you can see what we did. Let's get back a little bit. Okay, so top was Colonel Mustard. We went down into Rusty Nail, gave us this little orangey color here. Then we have just, what is that? We have just straight Rusty Nail. I gotta fix that. Straight Rusty Nail down into, the lighting is not helping. Down into the, in the navy. Makes a purpley type color. It's really hard to see on camera, but it is kind of purpley. And then down into Caviar. Yeah, so that's where we're at. That is where we're at. Okay, guys. I'm gonna jump off of here. Ouch. I'm gonna jump off of here, and you guys are gonna go try some blending. And if you do, tag me. I'd love to see. Use the hashtag Boho like JPO, and I'll see it for sure. Thanks everybody for joining, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.